Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today it is time to do another episode of what I think I'm going to call Back of the Envelope, where we do some rough calculations about things that I've been thinking about. And the idea here is just to put some actual numbers to gut feels and see how they come out, and to see, how close my gut feel is to reality when we start actually calculating some things. So recently I've been thinking about electric vehicles. In particular, I'm a big fan of Tesla Motors. I'm very excited to see what they do in the future. I just think it's a really cool idea, and I'm interested to see how the electric vehicle segment evolves over time. But today, electric vehicles really haven't had their breakout moment yet. There's a few out there, but for your average consumer, it's not an option. It hasn't really gained any real traction with your average car buyer. And there are, I think, a lot of different reasons for that that we could maybe discuss in a future video. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about one thing that gets brought up fairly frequently when people are discussing electrical vehicles, and that is the idea that electric vehicles, when they replace a gasoline car, they reduce pollution on the road, right? We're no longer burning gasoline on the road. There's no exhaust. So it results in a cleaner road. But of course, the electricity that the electric car uses still has to come from somewhere. And in this country, we're still largely we're burning coal and natural gas to produce our electricity. So by driving an electric vehicle, yes, you do reduce pollution on the road. You're no longer burning gasoline on the road, but you are burning coal or natural gas or something else at your electricity generation plant. So a transfer of pollution from the road to the plant, the argument goes, is really not beneficial. It doesn't help, right? So I was kind of interested to see, well, what is the efficiency of a gasoline engine compared to one of Tesla's electric vehicles? And I chose the Model S. That's their kind of luxury sedan. I think it's probably in the same class as Audi, BMW, Mercedes, those type of sedans, are in the $50,000 range, something like that. So I wanted to actually calculate these numbers out and see if we could make any sense of them. So I started by selecting two vehicles, the Model S from Tesla and the 2011 Toyota Camry. It's a 4-cylinder engine, and it's advertised as getting 25 miles per gallon city, 35 miles per gallon highway. And I know the Camry is a very popular vehicle, and I chose it as kind of an average representative vehicle. Now, there are, of course, issues with this. There are smaller vehicles that are much more efficient. There are big honking vehicles that are much less efficient. So we have to be aware that what we've picked for our basis is obviously going to affect the results. So let's just keep that in mind as we go through this. I'm also going to give the gasoline engine the benefit of the doubt and assume that it drives at 35 miles per gallon, which is the advertised highway mileage, all the time. So it always gets 35. Now, in reality, a lot of driving is going to be at the city level, and also those advertised ratings are kind of theoretical maximums. I don't know that anybody truly regularly achieves those. And, of course, driving style influences that a lot as well. So let's start with the Camry. We're gonna assume 35 miles per gallon is the average mileage. So let's flip that around and get gallons per mile. So we just take the reciprocal of that, 1 over 35, and we get 0.28, or about 0.29 gallons per mile. And then let's convert gallons into, we want to get gallons of gasoline into energy. So my goal here is to just get all these numbers into kind of standard forms. Although I will forewarn you, I do mix metric and imperial. I'm sorry. So we get about 0.29 gallons per mile. Now, looking up some numbers, it looks like on average a good energy density for gasoline is about 33.4 kilowatt hours per gallon. Of course, mixing ethanol reduces that by quite a bit. But this looks like it's kind of a middle of the road energy density for gasoline. So we're going to go with that, 33.41 kilowatt hours per gallon. And we're going to multiply that by 3.6 million joules per kilowatt hour. So what we get for gasoline is an energy density of 120 million joules per gallon, roughly. So now we have our 0.29 gallons per mile. Let's multiply that out by our 120 million joules per gallon. And we come out with an energy efficiency for the Toyota Camry at about 3 million, little over 3 million joules. Yeah, 3 million joules per mile driven. So I could probably convert that to joules per kilometer, make it a little bit, or joules per meter even, make it a little bit more standard form, but you know what, this is all right. So we'll come back to that number. Let's move on to the Model S then. Tesla Model S with the 60 kilowatt hour battery, that's the lower end of the battery spectrum. They advertise will travel 208 miles. So we can calculate a mileage then. 60 kilowatt hours divided by 208 miles gives us 0.288 kilowatt hours per mile. So that's our mileage for the Tesla Model S. Let's figure out, I guess I did this calculation a little bit differently. 3.6 million joules per kilowatt hour, that's just the conversion, times the 60 kilowatt hour battery, we get about 200 million joules. We divide that by the 208 mile range and we get roughly 1 million joules per mile. So let's compare then. Our Toyota Camry, we get about 3.4 million joules per mile. The Tesla Model S is about 1 million joules per mile. So according to these calculations, the Tesla Model S uses about 1/3 the amount of energy as a Toyota Camry does. So let's talk about that number for a minute. That did kind of surprise me. I did have a feeling that the electric vehicle was going to be much more efficient. Well, more efficient. I didn't think it was going to be that much more efficient. Of course, electric motors are much more efficient than internal combustion engines. A lot of energy in an IC engine is lost to heat. But yeah, 3 times as much energy in the Camry. That kind of surprised me. I didn't think it would be quite that much. So then I thought it would be interesting. Let's try and put a dollar figure on that energy number. So I took, it looked like the national average currently for gasoline, regular gasoline, at the time of this recording is $3.52.6 per gallon for regular gasoline. So let's take our 0.28 gallons per mile and multiply that by our $3.526 per gallon. And our gallons will cancel and we'll end up with $1 per mile. Now hang on, let me check this calculation. I'm going to stop here and be back in a second. Alright, and we're back. I had to double check a calculation. I did have an error. When I converted 35 miles per gallon to gallons per mile, I wrote down 0.28 gallons per mile. It is really 0.028 gallons per mile. But it looks like when I actually calculated it out, I did use the correct number. I just didn't write it down properly. So our Toyota Camry efficiency as 3.4 million joules per mile is correct. But when calculating cost, I had to refigure that. So that's what we were talking about, cost. So we take our 0.028 gallons per mile times our $3.52.6 per gallon, and we get about 11.1 cents per mile to drive the Camry. So let's jump to the Model S then. I looked up some government numbers on electricity cost and usage and such, and for Minnesota in 2012 the average price was 10.96 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity. And of course this changes by season and state to state as well. So this is kind of an average number. If you want more specialized or focused numbers, you'll have to pick a better number for that. But if we multiply that by our 0.288 kilowatt hours per mile, we actually get a cost of 3 cents per mile. So it looks like, in terms of energy, the energy actually costs very similar between gasoline and electricity. So our Camry uses 3 times as much energy as the Model S. It also costs roughly 3 times, almost 4 times as much as the Model S per mile just to operate. So that kind of surprises me too. I was expecting that electrical generation would be more efficient, that would have a higher energy density essentially than gasoline, or rather that it would cost less to generate the equivalent amount of energy in electricity than gasoline. But it turns out that they're priced relatively similarly, which I do find surprising. I do know that gasoline does contain a lot of energy, though, and part of the reason that the Camry ends up using so much more energy, I think, is not because of the fuel source, but because of the method of extracting energy from that fuel source. So combustion, it releases a lot of the energy from the gasoline, but a lot of it is unusable. So the internal combustion engine operates by pressure of the expanding gas when the combustion happens, but that heat isn't really helping. That heat is a loss. So between the gasoline to the tire on the road, there's huge efficiency problems. So that's kind of where the numbers left me. In general, they were expected numbers. The magnitudes were more different than I thought they were going to be, however. One last thing that I thought would be interesting to calculate out, and this may or may not mean anything to most people, but I thought it would be interesting to figure out, if we took, just in a hypothetical calculation, if we took, let's say all the miles that were driven in the United States in a year were driven by Toyota Camrys at 35 miles per gallon gasoline. And then let's say they were all converted to the Model S. Let's compare over a whole year, over the whole country, what that difference in energy would look like. And of course, this is just a hypothetical number. It doesn't have any real meaning because, of course, not all vehicles are Camrys, not all vehicles are gasoline powered, and not everybody's going to drive a Model S in the future. So just an interesting thought experiment, I think. So it looks like coal produces roughly 2,400 kilowatt hours per ton when we burn it to produce electricity. So if we convert that, we get about 8 billion joules per ton of energy for coal when it's used to create electricity. And if we, let's see here. Where are these numbers going? I did not write down this this calculation as clearly as my previous one. 1 ton gives us that much energy. Yes, okay, so our I'm sorry, 8 billion joules per ton of energy, and let's take that difference between the Camry and the Model S. So that's about 2 million joules per mile. So what is that difference? We calculate that out. The difference is about 0.0002 tons of coal per mile that we would essentially save. And I came up with another number from Wolfram Alpha. About 3.03 trillion miles are driven in the United States per year. So let's multiply that out, and then we get 684 million tons of coal. So the difference between driving all those miles with the Camry and driving all those miles with the Model S is 684 tons of coal. Now this is kind of interesting because we could do a little bit more with this number maybe at a later date. Figure out how much coal that really is. How much coal is produced in the country. In fact, why don't I just look that up right now? That would be an easy enough number to find. How much coal is mined in the U.S. each year? And this takes us to Wikipedia, and it looks like we had about 1 billion tons. So that kind of puts this in perspective. This difference that we're talking about between the Camry and the Model S, of course, theoretical. But over the whole country over a year, that represents 2/3 of our entire coal production. So that is a huge number. That's a very big number. So it represents kind of a theoretical impact that converting the general automotive industry to electric might have. Cut our coal use, by 2/3. That's huge. Take away pollution on the road surface. Bring it back to the electricity generating plants, but now we're generating only 1/3 of the the energy that we needed before. So it could have a very large theoretical impact, and I find that pretty interesting. One last point to note that was brought up to me was it's all well and good to move the energy from the gas tank to your power plant, but can the grid actually handle all that extra demand? And that's certainly something that over time is going to have to be addressed. Of course, the population grows and our electrical usage also grows, and so the grid is growing in response to that. But if we have a mass exodus away from gasoline cars toward toward electric vehicles, the grid is it's going to be non-trivial to incorporate all that demand into the existing power grid. So just another interesting thought. So anyway, let's leave it there for today. These are our calculations looking at a little bit of electric vehicle stuff. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. Every once in a while I have to just get out my calculator and double check my gut and see where things turn out. So I think that's a good verification to do every once in a while. But in any case, if you did enjoy this, please leave some comments. Criticisms, feedback would be very much appreciated. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Check out the other videos on my channel. That would be much appreciated as well. And if you find stuff that you like, please subscribe. So in any case, I hope everybody has a great day, and I will see you next time.